Thank you so much. So yeah, also maybe a couple of things to mention. So also on the affiliation. So I'm the first professor of gamification in the world, apparently, which is very interesting. But so also, in addition to the affiliations mentioned, we are also affiliated as a gamification group at Tampere University with the Academy of Finland Strategic Profiling area on gamification, as well as of course, the Center of Excellence in Game Culture Studies, as well as obviously, most relevantly, I guess, for today's meeting, the Unite Flagship, of course. But I would also like to really thank, of course, all the other sailors of the Flagships gathered here today. This is a very good opportunity for us to network and really take this joint venture forward, but also the participants, which we have many here, and as well as online, and also the organizers for their very deep patience with all the arrangements. So let's see if I can go forward. We still had your last slides here. And Juho, I'm a little bit jealous because you had such nice videos in your slides. But so as we know, of course, the sort of background motivation and idea between the flagships, like both of the flagships is obviously that biosociety is facing several grand wicked challenges, as we know, such as climate change, depletion of natural resources, loss of biodiversity, and so forth. And obviously, therefore, the aim of the Unite Flagship is to research and develop new technologies and practices for creating and processing and managing information and data about nature for holistic sustainability, be it ecological, economic, societal, cultural. But sort of this richer information alone that, for example, you had just presented is not necessarily sufficient to really sort of holistically also engage people into addressing these grand challenges. And that is really where the gamification and games come into play. So it is really the method for engaging then people into several of these really difficult challenges. And as we already know, of course, and as the research shows, games are especially good for motivating, engaging, and really sort of growing these very important skills when it comes to cognitive, emotional, social, and motivational skills. So, for example, they help us learn problem solving, emotional resilience, collaboration and competition, which are obviously completely inherent to games, as well as motivational skills. And especially games really hone in this sort of long-term goal setting and understanding of the temporal dimension of the different problems. And here's a few pictures of different gameful environments. But so essentially and anecdotally, sort of the situation really is that what we normally see, I guess, in the real world, where we have somewhat unmotivated, unengaged, and also uninformed and unliterate, obviously, people who struggle really finding the engagement to tackle these grand challenges, whereas then in the game environment, I guess the players become valiant heroes, researchers, data crunchers, and really try to understand the problem and tackle the big challenges, be it say a dragon in this case. Slaying a dragon is a very big undertaking in, for example, World of Warcraft. And so this is sort of the premise behind gamification, that if games are so great for solving many of the problems, then wouldn't it make sense to make the world a little bit more like a game? And perhaps the slides are a little bit gameful with the memes. But this is sort of the premise behind the gamification, which has obviously become a very popular topic in sciences, and maybe which was not mentioned is that also the gamification research and this profiling area are currently most impactful research group in Finland, according to Stanford statistics. And obviously thanks go to the community of researchers behind the work. But here's a couple of different examples of our research. Here's one video of a case where we built wearable technologies which measure biosignals of the users, but also from the nature, and they are used as a way to make nature and nature going as a resource for people playing games, also digitally, which again then creates a feedback loop back to the nature experience. And Boss Buruk here is probably with us here today, so you can ask him more in the demo point at the corridor, or also Timo Nummenmaa. Gamifying your lifestyle. We also do research in VR nature experiences. So on the left side, obviously, we do research also on real nature environments and how they help our well-being. As we know, nature helps, has restorative effects and well-being. So what we're trying to do then to replicate these effects also into virtual environments in a very multimodal and multi-sense settings where there's possibility to obviously have haptics of touching the nature, smelling the nature, and obviously an immersive audio-visual experience. Furthermore, though, as also Juha mentioned, virtual reality environments are also used to simulate ramification and consequences of different kinds of, for example, forest management strategies, and really sort of help us fast forward some of the effects we can then observe in VR. And in this picture, we also have a cave environment. It's based on Luke's research, where it's a projected walls. But we also do research with the 360 treadmill, so you can endlessly walk toward any direction in a room. So this is really helped by the multimodal, multi-sense technologies. We also do game-based learning platforms. For example, in this one, the students or any users are learning about data literacy, data skills and methods. Essentially, one of the obvious obstacles sort of as a bottleneck to really help us address climate change, and sort of is really the citizen capability to interpret data related to it. And so these games we use really for students to learn about the data and then make sort of multi-criteria optimization decision making how to deal with these problems. We also do role play, or maybe some of you know live action role play. So here in combination with TAT and Yrityskylä, which is award-winning pedagogical content, is sort of a mini society in which students role play different roles in a society and learn 21st century skills, and our results really show very promising results from this role taking and their effect on 21st skill propensity, for example, in the forestry occupational area. We also use VR to create sort of these multimodal data interpretation environments. So if anyone of you have seen Minority Report, where Tom Cruise is fully immersed in data, haptically touching the data, being really immersed and sort of being somehow natively within data, and that helps the interpretation, and of course in Minority Report, prediction of who will murder someone where in the world at what time. And so we are trying to replicate many of these kinds of methods to also forecasting what happens in the forestry sector. And so, for example, here the users can use the haptic gloves, and then we sort of vary the visualization of the data and sort of try to find the optimal way of interacting with data in 3D immersive virtual environments. And so next one here, so Juha was talking about laser scanning, but so there's also dark spots, blind spots in the scanning. So one of the things we're doing with game-based or location-based games is really to sort of develop these gameful interactions where the players can, while they're in the forest, scan the different, obviously, location objects that are in the forest that are otherwise blind spot for our more technology-based scanning. I'm probably too much on time already, so I'll try to go quickly forward. So here's a very nice example of Ferran here in the orange shirt. Just finished a 1-month-long hike among other nature goers. And really the aim of this research is to sort of very ethnographically and through co-design develop technologies that help nature goers to really celebrate nature as well as enhance their experience of nature going. And we also are investigating the future companionship between our future companions like the advanced robotics and AI. And we actually have just recently acquired also this Boston Dynamics spot, which we really then employ as a vessel to understand the companionship between our anthropomorphic companions and ourselves and the nature. And lastly, so we have just recently published a meta-review of effects of gamification in climate change engagement, be it adaptation or mitigation. And so through analysis of 55 existing studies, it really looks like there's a huge potential in using game-based solutions for climate change engagement. And as we can see here, most of the results in the current state of literature show promising positive results, be it through cognitive, affective, or behavioral engagement. And so with that, I think the future for game-based solutions for these topics looks very promising. And so let's try to then gamify the forest and let's unite. Thank you so much.